All right, let's get right into it. We see tech everywhere in schools these days. Smart boards, tablets, you name it. But here's the thing, the real revolution isn't about the gadgets, not at all. It's about how we use them to completely change the way we teach. So today, we're going to break down how we can transform teacher training for this digital age, moving way beyond just handing out new tools and getting into real, effective teaching strategy. So, to really get why this is so important, we first have to wrap our heads around something huge. The classroom as we know it is changing. I mean, fundamentally, the world our students are walking into needs a totally different set of skills. And education is, well, it's trying its best to keep up.
And just look at this contrast here. It tells the whole story. On the left, you've got the old school model, right? The teacher stands at the front, talks at you, and you just kind of sit there and absorb it. But look at the right. It's a whole different world. It's student-centered, it's collaborative, it uses all kinds of media to make learning active and connected to the real world. This isn't just a little adjustment. It's a massive paradigm shift.
And what's the engine driving this whole transformation? Well, it's information and communication technology, or ICT. It's really the key that unlocks this new dynamic way of learning. But here's the catch. Just having the key isn't enough. You have to know how to use it. And that brings us to what is probably the most critical point of this whole discussion. Look, a lot of schools have spent a ton of money on technology, but just dropping a computer into a classroom doesn't magically make education better. It just doesn't work that way. I absolutely love this analogy because it's just so perfect. The power isn't in the tool, right? It's in the skill of the person using it. A power saw is just a really dangerous paperweight if you don't understand woodworking. And it's the exact same idea for technology in the classroom. And this quote just hits the nail on the head. The conversation has to stop being about if we use technology and start being entirely about how we use it. It's not about the tech tools, it's about the educational goals. That how is all about pedagogy, the actual art and science of teaching. Which, of course, leads us to the big question. If just handing out laptops isn't the solution, then what is? How do we actually build training programs that give teachers the confidence and the skills to weave technology into their teaching in a meaningful way? Well, luckily, we've got a fantastic framework that can help us think this through. It actually breaks down teacher training for ICT into 4 different models, showing us that, there's more than one way to get this done. Okay, so let's take a look at this matrix. It seems complicated, but it's really not. Along the bottom, you've got the goal. Are we learning how to use the tech, or are we learning something else through the tech? And then on the side, you've got the role of the tech itself. Is it the main focus, the core, or is it just a helpful extra, complementary? This simple grid gives us 4 really powerful ways to think about training.
First up, quadrant 1. This is probably the one we're all most familiar with. Here, the technology itself is the main subject. So think about a workshop on how to use a new smartboard, or a course all about digital literacy. The whole point is to get good at using the tool itself.
Now, let's slide over to quadrant 2. Here, the technology basically becomes the classroom. This is where we learn through the tech. An online professional development course, or a webinar on classroom management. Those are perfect examples. See, the tech isn't the subject here. It's the way the training is being delivered. Okay, moving down to quadrant 3. This is where things get really interesting from a teaching perspective. Here, the tech is complementary, and the focus is on how to use it as part of a specific lesson. So imagine a history teacher learning how to use digital archives to have her students do a research project. The goal isn't just to learn the tech, it's to learn how to integrate it into history class. And finally, we have quadrant 4. This one is all about connection. Here, technology is used to connect teachers with each other. We're talking about online forums, professional networks, or video platforms where teachers can share ideas and best practices. It's about using ICT to build a real community of learners and mentors. All right, so that's the framework in theory. But what does this stuff actually look like in the real world? Let's check out a few really cool examples of how these ideas are being put into practice all over the globe. So in the US, you have a project called Captured Wisdom, which is basically a video library of real teachers in action, a perfect way to share what actually works. Then up in Canada, the Satir project helps administrators with that high-level big picture strategy for tech. And on an international scale, a UNICEF project is connecting teachers in developing countries, building a global support system from the ground up. And believe me, this movement is truly global. You see it in initiatives like the UK's Virtual Teacher Centre.
in Korea's EduNet, and in South Africa's SchoolNet. And these aren't just websites. They are vital online hubs that provide resources, training, and a real sense of community for teachers. It's a massive worldwide effort. Okay, so we've looked at the new classroom, we've talked about why teaching matters more than tools, and we've walked through a framework for training. Let's start to bring it all home by looking at the benefits and the big picture. So what's the payoff? Why go through all this effort? Well, the benefits are huge. Training can become way more cost-effective. Those expensive computer labs schools bought actually get used to their full potential. But most importantly, teachers get access to a world of shared materials and support networks that help them grow and thrive. At the end of the day, it really all comes back to this one simple truth. Teachers want to learn how to use these tools well. The demand is there, so our job is to build thoughtful, well-designed, and pedagogy-first training programs that can actually meet that demand. And that leaves us with one last question to really think about. In a world that is just constantly being reshaped by technology, the goal can't be for our teachers to just keep up. So the real question is, how do we design training that empowers them to not just adapt, but to actually lead the way into the future of learning?